everybody, my name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like, and today I have for you my October wrap-up and November TBR. Full transparency, I'm filming this on October 31st, and it is going up on November 1st. I wanted to give myself until the very end to read books, because I was participating in Becca's Spookopalathon, and I didn't get to do it for the full month, so I wanted to give myself like as much time as I could because it's just a really fun thing. And I vlogged that, so you can check that out when it goes up. It should be a week from now, a week and a half. I don't exactly remember when I scheduled it, but that will be going up at some point. So I am just gonna try and rapid fire through these books because obviously I have to also edit this video today, but I have a ton of books to get through. I did already film my TBR portion, like the card pulling and everything, a few days ago, so that's good to go. All I have to do is talk about these books, so let's get on that. The first book I picked up was In the Forests of the Night by Amelia Atwater Rhodes, and I had a good time with this. I didn't absolutely love it, but I still thought it was fun. You can definitely tell that she was like 15 when she wrote this because she was a very young author. I have read other books by Amelia Atwater Rhodes and absolutely loved them, which is why I wanted to give this a shot. And I didn't love this as much as the other books I've read from her, but it was still fun, and I would be interested in continuing on with the series. Then I picked up A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and this was the first book that I read for the Laudathon, which I vlogged, and that vlog is already up, so I will link that down below for you to check out. I read 4 books during the course of that vlog, and this was the first one. This was a reread for me. I really love this book. I think it's so well done, and the illustrations inside, if I can open up to show you one of them, maybe? Oh, come on. Like, they're so beautiful. I had a great time rereading this, and I will probably reread it again in the future. The next book that I read for Laudathon was Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. This was my first time reading from this author, and I will definitely pick up more from her because I loved this so much. It had a sapphic romance and sibling dynamics and really interesting magic. It had a magical plague, so much going for it, and it did not disappoint. I had a wonderful time reading this. Then I read the chunker that is The Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan. This was a reread, and it was so much fun. There are some things about it that I don't like now, because since the last time I read it, I have learned more about Roman mythology, and Rick just kind of went with some interesting story choices, I'll say that much. But yeah, I still had a fantastic time. Rick Riordan's one of my favorite authors. The Percy Jackson universe is one of my favorite fictional worlds to be in. It's just an amazing time. I'm so excited to continue my reread of this series. I have 2 more Heroes of Olympus books, and then I can finally read the new Percy books. That one came out last year and one came out this year, so that's gonna be so much fun. And I know I just called The Mark of Athena a chunker, but after that I read a coffee table book. This is the Chronicles of Exandria, The Mighty Nine, and this is mostly an art book. Like you can see, oh, we can see some goblins. This is a lot of art, and it's beautiful, stunning. I loved it so much. There's also little like snippets and blurbs throughout, like character profiles and stuff, talking about the Mighty Nine and other people from the campaign. So I've had this for several years, and I'm glad to finally have looked through it because I haven't done that until now. So now I have, and I had a good time. Then I picked up a manga, and that manga was Secret by Yoshiki Kanugai, I believe is how it's pronounced. This is a 3-volume series. It was kind of dark and mysterious. There's like a murder plot type thing, and I had a really good time with this. I didn't absolutely love it. There were definitely some elements that I was not a big fan of, but the overall effect was quite enjoyable, and I'm glad that I read this. This was recommended by Manook because I was like, hey, I need a short, spooky manga to read because that's what I'm in the mood for, and she was like, I got you, so thank you, Manook. I did enjoy this. And then I jumped back into Laudathon to wrap that all up with What Doesn't Break by Cassandra Khaw. The reason Laudathon exists in the first place, because it was to celebrate this book. And I won't lie, this was a bit of a rough start. but then after maybe 3 or 4 chapters, I started to get into the groove of it. There was just a lot of like very purple prosy type situations that I think were fine, but were just not necessary, you know? There was a very fairy tale esque writing style to the book that I appreciate because I thought it lent itself well to the story. It's just that it went a little bit too far sometimes, if that makes sense. But overall, I thought this was very well done, and I'm glad that we got to see some of Laudna's backstory in this. Then we have the other new release that I read, and that was A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. My dear friend, she's a writer here on YouTube. I'll link her channel down below for you to check out. But this was a wonderful story. It's like a Hallmark movie, but for Halloween. It's witchy, there's a romance, there are so many pumpkins, and a lot of like fun fall activities sprinkled throughout. It's just all around a really good time, and I got to meet Wallace, so she signed my copy personally to me, and that just makes it extra special. But I had a wonderful time reading this, and I actually did a whole vlog surrounding this book where I traveled because I had to meet her for a book tour, and I did other stuff while traveling too, but there was travel involved, there was some hauling of books that I bought, there was the reading of this book, so a whole lot of fun stuff that will be linked in the description for you to check out, along with the Laudna vlog. The next book that I picked up was Inkspell by Cornelia Funk. We have my very, very beat up copy, but I had a really good time. I'm slowly working my way through the Inkheart trilogy on a reread because there's a new book coming out in the Ink world that I think comes out in November, but it follows a character that we meet in Inkspell, so I'm very glad that I reread this and got to be reintroduced to this character and reminded of who he was because he's a very interesting character, and I'm excited to see what he does in his own book. That's called The Color of Revenge, which is a great title, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Unfortunately, after that, we had my first of several DNFs for the month, and that was Silverwing by Kenneth Opel. I was only reading this because I needed a book with a bat on the cover for a reading challenge, and I just was not having a good time, so I DNF'd it quite early on. I gave it a good shot. Like, I really tried, but about 20% in, I was like, I'm just not going to continue with this, so I DNF'd. Okay, from this point forward, we are into Spookopoly territory, so if you want to know specific details on my thoughts on these books, definitely stay tuned for that Spookopoly vlog. But the first one I picked up was Lysistrata by Aristophanes. Definitely not what I expected to pick up for Spookopoly, but I needed a TBR vet, and I've definitely owned this for a while, and it was fun. It was a good time. I found a YouTube video that was a production of the play to watch while I read along, and that was a pretty decent time. I had a nice afternoon. Then I picked up A Tale of Time City by Diana Wynne Jones, and I DNF'd this about 22% in. I only picked it up, I got it at a free little library, because it's Diana Wynne Jones, who, if you didn't know, is the author of Howl's Moving Castle, which I really love, and so I'm like, oh, I'll give her other books a shot. But I just don't like time travel stories. They're just not for me, so I gave it a go, realized I was not going to enjoy it if I continued reading, so I didn't continue reading, and this was my second DNF of the month. And then I had my third DNF of the month, 2 in a row, and that was Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal, and this was the Bujo Buddies book club pick for the month, and I don't like self-help books. They're not my jam. I did get pretty far into this. I read about 41% of it. Well, I listened to about 41% of it because it was an audiobook, but I just was not having a good time. I felt like it wasn't helpful. It was just giving very basic advice, and I'm like, I don't feel like listening to several more hours of this, so I DNF'd it, and I don't regret it. Then for the Nostalgia Train book club, I read Vampire Academy, and I had a great time with this. Definitely some things in there that gave me the ick that I did not appreciate. Looking at you, age gap romance, that was bizarre. This was a reread for me. I read it years and years and years ago in high school, and so I was glad to return to this. And then Sam, Violet, and I had a lovely discussion about it on the Nostalgia Train Book Club channel. I will link that down below as well. Why not? Well, I'm linking everything else. But overall, this was a fun time, and I kind of want to continue on with the series because I remember reading the whole thing, but I don't remember a ton of details, so I'm curious if the rest of it still holds up. After that, I picked up a spooky middle grade, and that was The Clackety by Laura Senf, I think is how it's pronounced. And I thought this was really good. There were some moments where I was like pulled out of the story because it was told from the point of view of this character and not in like a journal format or anything, like an actual regular book, but sometimes it would be her like describing the way something looks, and then she'd just be like, it looked like this, and then there would be an image shoved in there, and I just felt so taken out of the story at those points, and it happened like 4 or 5 times. But besides that, I thought it was a really lovely read, and I will maybe continue on with the series. I'm not entirely sold on it, but I'm curious enough that if it comes up, I'd probably pick up the second one. Then we had my final DNF, which I DNF'd at only 5% into the book, and that was The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. And I picked this up because I needed a book over 500 pages, and this certainly fit the bill. It was 610, and I got not very far into it before realizing that I am just not the person for this story, and I was not going to read 610 pages of a story that I knew was not for me, so I put it down, and then like 2 days after I like DNF'd it, I was going on a walk and I stopped at a Little Free Library and I actually found The House of the Spirits in the Little Free Library, so that was a little bit bizarre, but yeah, it just was not for me, and we're gonna leave it at that. Then I picked up A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth, and this wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't good. I was kind of confused going along, but I was intrigued enough by the murder mystery plotline and our various characters, some of them more than others. I was interested enough to keep going, but then the last like 100 or 150 pages just took a sharp downward turn, introducing some weird mechanics to the story, some very bizarre things were going on, and I could not. I did read the whole thing, and that's pretty much all I can say for myself about it. Definitely check out the vlog for more details on this because I feel like as I was reading it, I gave a lot better of updates. Then for my last physical book, I read What Waits in the Water by Kieran Scott, who is an author that I've read from before and really enjoyed. I've actually met her twice, and I had a really good time with this. It wasn't absolutely perfect by any means, but it was still a very solid book, super spooky. If you're looking for like an upper middle grade, lower YA book, it's a very quick read and it's set during the summer. So if you're looking for a summer spooky book, I would highly, highly recommend this. Then I read Barbarian Mine by Ruby Dixon, which is book 4 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and I wouldn't rank it as highly as book 2. Book 2 is still my favorite, but I do think I liked it more than books 1 and 3. It was just a really fun time. I enjoyed the dynamic between our main character, Harlow, and her love interest, Rook. There was some really fun exploration of sibling dynamics that I didn't expect but really enjoyed, so overall a very solid read, and I'm glad I got to continue on with this series. And the last book that I read was Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose, and I genuinely had such high hopes for this, and I think it is the fact that I had high hopes that made this so disappointing for me. I did not enjoy reading from any of the characters' points of view. They were all so unlikable and didn't really have any redeeming qualities. The mystery itself was so easy to decipher right from the beginning what was going on, and not in a like breadcrumbs followed kind of way, but just like it was the obvious answer kind of way, and it was just not great for my tastes. I can see why other people would love it, but I just didn't have that good of a time with it. I can say though, it was a very fast read. I read it over the course of like 4 hours in one sitting, and the chapters are very short and the pacing is very well done. So it wasn't like a completely horrible book by any means, it just wasn't what I was looking for. And with all of that out of the way, I can now cut to me from a couple of days ago where I picked out my books for November. Hello friends, it's me from the past, or well, I guess the whole video is me from the past, but it's me even more in the past than the rest of the clips, because I'm not filming my wrap-up until the 31st, even though this video is going up on the 1st, so I'm kind of real close there, but today that I'm filming this portion is the 29th, because I'm curious as to what books are going to end up on my TBR for next month, so I've got my deck of cards here, and we're going to do our 3 pulls, so give it a little split in the middle, and let's just get to it. We have the Bard. That's a nice one. They're all nice ones. I love these cards. The art is gorgeous. Second up, we have the Adversary. The Adversary ones are the scary prompts that I'm not excited to see, but like also challenge me, so a little bit scared. And then finally, we have the Monstrosity. So I will go look at my cheat sheet of prompts, pick books that fit them, and come back and tell you all about that, so I'll be right back. Okay friends, I am back. So, the first card I pulled was the Bard, and as this is a class card, there are 2 different options for prompts, and I can either put a playlist on shuffle and pick a book based on the vibes of whatever song comes up, or I can just choose a romance, and as much as the playlist shuffle thing is like a really fun time, and I would love to do that, I'm just gonna go with the romance option because I got stuff to do today. I really just want to film this clip and get going. So the romance that I'm going with is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and this is classified as a romantasy. So romance, it's part of romantasy. I'm counting it. This is the Bujo Buddies book club pick for the month of November, so I'm excited to squeeze that in here. If I'm out of breath, I promise it's not because I'm like exasperated or anything. I had to run down the stairs to grab a book off my boyfriend's shelf and then run back up the stairs, so I'm just out of shape. Anyway, the second card that I pulled was the Adversary, and the prompt for this is a second chance author, and I'm fudging this a little bit. The book that I'm going to put on here is When She Reigns by Jodi Meadows, which is the 3rd book in the Fallen Isles trilogy, and I'm considering Jodi Meadows to be a second chance author because I did really, really enjoy the first book, but the second one disappointed me so bad. It was just not it in any capacity, so I'm considering reading the 3rd book as her chance to get back in my good graces, I guess, and I am hoping that the trilogy ends with a bang and it was just like middle book syndrome, but we will see. I'm excited to finish out a series, even though I didn't quite enjoy the second book. The third and final card that I pulled was the Monstrosity, and the Monstrosity cards are all different horror genres, and for the Monstrosity, it is a body horror or slasher, and I'm so excited. I will be reading Chainsaw Man 16. This came out a while ago, I want to say. It came out in like September in the US, and I just haven't had time to squeeze it in, so I will finally be reading this. Chainsaw Man is one of my favorite series. It's so good. I know that some questionable things have happened in the latest chapters that have come out in the past couple of months, but I'm not up to that yet because I read when the volumes come out, so I am looking forward to this. This cover is really pretty. I love the Chainsaw Man covers in general, but something about like the butterflies in the background of this, I just think this one is stunning. So, very excited to pick this up. It'll be a nice, quick read, and I'm going to really enjoy it. So, those are the 3 cards officially pulled, the 3 books officially on my November TBR. And with all that out of the way, I will kick it back to October 31st Mars to wrap up this video. So, yeah. And we are back. So I do have one last thing to talk about, and that is readathons. I am taking part in one readathon in November, and that is the Tomes and Treasures, hosted by Jem and Ashley, and I'm very much looking forward to this. I do have quite a lot of books that I'm planning to get to in November for reading challenges and book clubs and vlogs. So my plan is just to read the books that I have to read and assign them to the prompts for the Tomes and Treasures readathon as I go along. It's like a 4x5 grid of prompts, and you can like double up, triple up, whatever. So I'm just going to read the books I already have planned and stick them in there, and then if I have time at the end, find stuff to cover any prompts I didn't get to. Just kind of low key participation, but that is everything that I had to talk to you about then. So we have come to the end of this video that I now have to spend my afternoon editing and hope that my computer cooperates and I can get it exported and uploaded to schedule it to go up tomorrow. But that's for me to worry about, not you guys. Hopefully you guys are actually watching this and it went up fine, but we have come to the end of this video, so if you've enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!